Okay, now, can everybody see the large? Everybody can see that? And you can hear me, correct?
Yes, it looks good and we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. Um, First of all, I appreciate everybody joining today, joining the Brunch and Learn. Um, I also want to give a special thanks to the Watershed Foundation and the POA for their continued support for the Arrowhead Cove pilot dredging project. And I also want to thank Senator Edwards and Delegate Beitzel for securing state fundings for the entire amount of the project. So this has been a long time in the works, in the making, and I'm happy to say that the project is well underway. And I estimate that we have a little over 20% of the sediment removed as of yesterday. I'll give a little bit of background about myself. Again, I'm Bruce Michael. I work for Garrett County. I have been working for them for a little over 2 years. And before that, I worked for Maryland Department of Natural Resources and have been following the dredging project, for over a decade, actually. We actually started monitoring Deep Creek Lake back in 2009. We established a water quality monitoring program. And Maryland Geological Survey actually did intensive work at Deep Creek Lake back in 2012. And they identified areas of sediment accumulation in approximately 10 coves within Deep Creek Lake. And that was kind of the start of the thought process of potentially dredging one and more coves if necessary. So with that said, I'm going to be given a presentation today, and I'm going to give a little bit about the site background, the project purpose, why and how we selected Arrowhead Cove. And many of you have already heard this information before. I'm going to be talking about the staging area, why we selected this particular approach for dredging or sediment removal. The main part of the presentation will be the project progress, where I will be showing pictures of what we've done over the last month and a half. And then a little bit of follow-up on what we're going to do once we're completed with the project, with the site restoration, and then I will entertain questions. So with that, I'll give a little bit about the site background and project purpose. As you all know, this is a project in Arrowhead Cove. The picture on the left is the Deep Creek Lake, and the small box is Arrowhead Cove. We're actually only doing a small area of Arrowhead Cove. You can see where that the hatched box in the cove is where the sediment removal area is. And then to the bottom of that cove picture is where our staging area is for the project. Deep Creek Lake has been in existence for almost 100 years. It was initially constructed in 1925. The studies that I talked about, Maryland Geological Survey did on the bathymetry of the lake, sediment characterization, bottom mapping, and all, indicates that approximately 1 million cubic yards or 620 acre feet is accumulated sediment over time since the inception of the lake in 1925. The majority of this sediment accumulation has occurred in the lake's southern coves. And this accumulation, sediment accumulation, does not necessarily impact the function of the lake or the energy generation by Brookfield Hydroelectric, but it does have impacts, negative impacts to our recreational use and to lake access. Okay. Why did we select Arrowhead Cove? DNR's Department of Natural Resources Waterway Improvement Fund grant provided an initial funding to evaluate all the coves that were impacted and specifically select a cove for dredging based on several criteria. We did a study, 2016 and 17 study called the Cove Evaluation Report, evaluated which coves based on specific selection criteria. This report is available. We actually have a website on the county website, specifically on Arrowhead Cove. We have documentation on several reports that were done. This Cove Evaluation Report is available, as well as frequently asked questions, a schedule and timeline associated with all of this. And I believe I have the website that is available on my last slide. The selection criteria that identified Arrowhead Cove as the #1 cove, based on a ranking of all the 10 coves, basically looked at some of the key criteria that we looked at were expansion and improvement for public boating access. Arrowhead Cove's in a centralized area with a lot of activity, with restaurants, entertainment, shopping for lake users. Also, the cost of the cove. Arrowhead Cove is actually one of the smaller coves that are sediment impacted. We looked at other state and local priorities. We also looked at the environmental impacts, and Arrowhead Cove ranked high on that. It also ranked high for recreational activity, and importantly enough was the logistics. Arrowhead Cove is close to, a main road, main highway, Route 219, that we can transport the material. Some of the cost, or a fair amount of the cost associated with dredging, is actually the transportation costs for moving the material off-site. Okay. The sediment removal area, this is a diagram of that. We're going to be removing approximately 1 to 5 feet, depending on the location of where we're actually removing the sediment. The focus is to increase our recreational water depth. I'll show some pictures later of the cove, and you can see on the left-hand slide of that area. That area is mainly, this time of year, is basically a mud flat, swampy area, and doesn't have enough water depth to support fish or underwater grasses. Also captures the material. We're going to be doing dredging up at the head of that material, the head of the Arrowhead Cove, and will allow us to capture more sediment when it comes in before it gets into the lake. Allow us to remain wetted during low water levels to provide that additional habitat for fish and underwater grasses. Okay. Talk a little bit about the staging area. For a project of this size, there's a lot of disturbance. The staging area consists primarily of a large stockpile area for managing the sediment, plus equipment. We've got a trailer there. We've got, a lot going on. The graded area allows for drainage. Once we collect the material, and I'll have pictures of the actual sediment that we've pulled up, we stockpile it and it drains out. We filter it before it goes back into the lake. It also allows for equipment access through a gap in the tree line. We tried to avoid disturbing any existing vegetation there. No trees were cut down for the project, and we're actually going to replant trees when we're done. Our general contractor has laid down equipment and supplies for the project as it moves forward. This is an actual picture of the staging area. This was done in November when we first started, early November when we first started clearing the area. It was a previous grass field, but we had to pack it down and make sure that it would hold the equipment that we're moving in there. You can see in the picture on the left, there's a large orange box. That is one of the water pumps, and I'll show you some other pictures of that as well. This is those 4 orange boxes are water pumps that were able to withdraw the water. We have dewatered the cove, and those pumps put water into a large pipe that is shunts the creek that comes in and supplies the water for Arrowhead Cove. Takes that water and puts it into that pipe, and that is shunted around what's called a cofferdam that blocks off the water from coming into the cove from the lake. That piece of equipment there actually puts large pieces of pipe. Those pipe, it comes in sections, and that green piece of equipment there seals the joints together and allows us to string a whole section of pipe. And I'll show you some pictures of that later on as well. Okay. Talk about our sediment removal approach. What we decided to do was mechanical excavation. The goal is to remove approximately 11,000 cubic yards of material from that cove. We are removing the material in the dry. The work is being done now, late fall and early window when the water levels are naturally low, that it exposes that sediment to drying conditions. We've installed a temporary water retention structure. That's what we call a cofferdam. And the equipment utilizes temporary mat roads to access the lake itself. Okay. All right, this is a picture of the lake taken on November 20th. The elevation is 2456.5 feet at this. Brookfield worked with us to lower the lake levels, and this is to help us install the cofferdam, and it reduced our cost overall with the lake levels lowered. The 2456.5 is actually in the middle of the upper and lower rule band for this time of the year. So we didn't, even though we asked Brookfield to lower the water levels, it does not exceed any of their permit requirements. And again, we thank Brookfield for working with us to help lower those lake levels. They actually lowered them for about 3-week time period, beginning around November 20th. They dropped them down to that level. And you can see on the picture on the left and on the right, you can actually see the creek Arrowhead Run that still flows down through that mud flat there and into the cove itself. You can also see on the picture on the right, the water pumps that are used to pull the water out of the creek. Okay. These are pictures of the temporary access roads that are put in and laid down. The contractor for the project is BICO Enterprises. They are a Maryland firm. They're basically located out of Grantsville, so it's good that we got a local contractor that secured the bid, won the bid for the project itself. And they've brought in all the equipment. We appreciate the work that BICO has been doing. And you can see how they lay down these temporary roads for the heavy equipment to get to the side of the lake. And they actually use these same roads, these same structures. They actually can move those about and put them wherever they need them to dredge out material. Okay. I'm going to talk a little bit now about the water retention structure. We have a small dam that blocks off one of the creeks that flows in from the south. And then we actually have two cofferdams that were installed, one in the front of Arrowhead Run, the creek that supplies the water to Arrowhead Cove, and then a larger cofferdam more out towards the head of the cove that blocks off the water. The structure, it's a temporary structure, and it's a bladder typed system that we have, and it's filled with water. We actually pump water into it, and we work water on the work side of the area is pumped back into the lake. Okay. This is a picture of actually a little dam that they put across the creek, the small creek on the southern portion of the cove, and they pump that water into the same pipe that is used to funnel the water around the dam, the cofferdam. Okay. Then this is another shot. The picture on the left is a shot of the cofferdam right at the head of Arrowhead Creek. And you can see the large pipes there that are pumping that water. I mean, we can't stop the flow of the water, so it's pumped around. The picture on the right is the actual cofferdam before it's blown up. They moved it out to the site, but what happens is it's almost like a big plastic bag, except for it's very thick, almost like a canvas material. And we pump that full of water, and as it fills up with water, it rolls out across the lake. It's an amazing feat that they did to get this done. Very very great. Fortunately, I was able to get out there and get some pictures. Okay, this is the side. You can see as the cofferdam fills with water, it unrolls from that large, it's like it's wrapped up on a pole, and more water gets on there. It's again, as I said, it's almost like a black plastic bag, but it's so thick that, again, a canvas material, that you can stand on the top of it, and they release it and guide it to where it's going on the other side. So this is a picture of the installation of that and how it moved across the side to the other side of the lake as it was filled with water. Okay. And this is a picture early on the morning. It took 2 days to get it installed. It was installed November 28th and 29th, but you can imagine it being filled with water and moving out. And if you can see in the center of the picture, you've got 3 people that are actually standing on it, so you could actually walk across it. It's pretty substantial. We're not really concerned about it freezing. There's so much water in there and thick that even if it's cold, it's not going to freeze. One of the things that I do want to mention, when we did install the first cofferdam around the creek, we got it installed. We had a heavy rain event on the weekend on a Sunday and Monday, and it did put us back a week because the pumps clogged up with material. We hadn't had a significant rain for a while. All the debris that was coming down Arrowhead Run Creek basically clogged up the pumps, and it overflowed and pushed the cofferdam out. So we had to retrieve it, move it back, but it set us back about a week. By the time we retrieved it, made sure that the cofferdam was still in the integrity of it was in good condition, and then we reinstalled it. So it was unfortunate, but we learned a lot. We learned that anytime we have a big rain event, that we actually have to have people watching it continuously. And we do have that now. Anytime we have a big rain event, we'll have people on site. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about the project progress, just show you a couple pictures. And then when I'm done, I'll entertain some questions. Okay. The picture on the left of this is the actual stream being diverted, the stream water that comes down on the other side, the lake side of the cofferdam, and that water runs right back into the lake. The yellow structure, the yellow thing, is what we call a turbidity curtain, and that stretches across the lake. And what it does is it kind of filters the water. If there's any sediment in that water, it filters it before mixing with the lake water. What we've seen so far is really the water coming through the creek. It's not any different. There's no more turbidity than the lake water that it's going into. We're not disturbing it that much that there's a lot of sediment in it. It looks just as clear as the stream does. Okay. This is a picture of our first load of sediment that was removed on Friday, December 1st. You can see the backhoe is dumping that first load of sediment. So that was a great shot that we got. You can see the heavy trucks back up right to the edge there where the backhoe can dump the sediment, the accumulated sediment into the truck. And then the truck takes it up and dumps it into the staging area. It's stockpiled there and dewatered. And the second picture is a truck that is, we have a backhoe up there that it's taking the sediment pile, the stockpile of material that's drained a little bit. The water is drained and then filtered before it runs back down into the lake. But you can see the backhoe there dumping the material into the truck. We basically have 4 or 5 of those trucks running continuously back and forth during a day. And we've had up to about 32 truckloads of material that we can collect during a day, and the material is taken to the landfill. It's about 7 miles away, and they run continuously. We are able to move material pretty quickly after it's deposited in the stockpile. It drains out very quickly, and which is good that it doesn't accumulate a lot in that staging area. These are pictures of what the bottom looks like after it's been dewatered, and the backhoes are actually scooping the material out. This is excavation on mainly some of the shallow areas of the lake, so we're only digging down about a foot or two right here. It's a little bit slower when you're only taking a little bit of material out as opposed to taking deeper material. On the picture on the right, you can see the cofferdam, and it's basically, it's mostly dry. You can see little pockets of water, but the backhoes can work in this material and that material, and we do have other pumps that are draining material out as water out as we move along. Okay. These are some more shots of the actual stockpiled sediment. You can see we put it up there. When it first comes out, the picture on the right, that's some muddier material with a little bit more water in it. That water actually drains out pretty quickly, and then the backhoe maneuvers it, pushes it around, and which assists in some of that draining. So that's what it looks like in the staging area before we load it onto the trucks and take it to the landfill. Okay. Now, this is a picture of basically taken December 8th. We've moved the backhoes more into the center of the cove. And in that area, we're dredging about 4 or 5 feet down. That's where most of the sediment has accumulated in that center of the cove. We can remove a lot more material during in that deeper area. It's not quite as exact. We can only dredge to the bottom of the original lake bottom. We can't go deeper than that original lake bottom. So that's why we're only looking at about dredging about anywhere from 1 to 5 feet of depth. When we remove the material in that deeper area, it just moves much quicker than moving on the side where we only can scoop like a foot of material out at a time. Okay. We can have multiple backhoes moving and working in an area. And these are a couple of pictures of the deeper areas that we're excavating. And as I indicated at the start of the presentation, we're about, I think, a little over 20% of the way finished as far as moving material out. We actually have to be completely out of the water by the end of February, by March 1st. This will allow time. March is fish spawning season, so we have to be out of the water by that time. So we'll be completely done by that time of doing the sediment excavation. And since we're over 20% of the way done, I don't think we'll have any problem meeting that schedule. It will obviously take us longer to make sure that all the sediment, even when it's stockpiled in the staging area, to make sure that it's off-site. And then we're going to put that site back the way it was. Okay. Talk just a minute about the site restoration. When we're done the project, it will include site restoration, includes the installation of in-water habitat features. And this has been requested by DNR. We understand which those features include rock clusters for fish habitat. And we'll have 3 areas identified for those rock clusters. And then we're also going to be planting submerged aquatic vegetation. That will be done late spring, probably in the May timeframe of 2024. And then we're also going to be doing upland restoration, which is planting new trees to the area. We didn't take down any existing trees, but we will be planting new trees in the area. Department of Natural Resources was able to collect seeds of native plants at Deep Creek Lake. So we're in the process of taking those seeds. We're going to take them to a greenhouse, grow the plants over the winter, and then the goal is to have them ready to replant later this spring. Okay. All right. As I mentioned, we do have a website, which a lot of information about the project, what it includes, again, that frequently asked questions, a timeline, how it's going. We also have another site on the county website with photos of the construction. I'm trying to get out there every several days to take pictures of the progress that we're making. Right now, it's just the same thing as far as we got the backhoes in there scraping material out. But we do have that photo gallery up there. My contact information, again, bmichael@garrettcounty.org. If you have any specific questions or anything, you can contact me directly. And with that, I am done my presentation. So what I will do is stop sharing and see